They said it was just sleep, nothing more than a harmless nap taken during the golden hours of the afternoon, a luxury for some, a necessity for others. But in the forgotten edges of time and science, buried beneath dusty scrolls and overlooked by the modern world's obsession with productivity and performance, there exists a hidden truth, one that begins not with yawns or dreams, but with silence, the kind of silence that creeps into the bones of those aged 60 to 80, the kind that feels more like withdrawal than rest, more like decay than peace, and it all starts innocently enough. A gentle doze after lunch, a warm sunbeam touching wrinkled skin, a faint sigh as the body surrenders. But what if this surrender isn't healing? What if it's a signal, an ancient switch being flipped, activating mechanisms within the body not meant to operate during daylight? Because for centuries, sages and scholars warned, the body, after 60, becomes like an old clock. It doesn't just slow down, it remembers. And what it remembers is not just routines, but rhythms, celestial ones, ones tied to the rise and fall of the sun, the whisper of hormones, the dance of melatonin and cortisol. And when you sleep during the day, especially at that age, you disturb this sacred clockwork and something begins to happen. Not immediately, not with alarms or symptoms, but gradually, like a whisper inside the cells, a disorientation of time within the tissue, confusion among neurons, your internal night becoming day and day becoming night. And with this shift comes subtle betrayals. Forgetfulness sharpens, mood dulls. The immune army becomes sluggish, and most alarmingly, repair halts. Not completely, but enough to let wear accumulate faster than the body can handle, like a roof leaking drop by drop until one day it collapses. And that's not even the worst part, because in regions where elder populations nap daily under strong sunlight, doctors began noticing something eerie. A rise in neurodegenerative changes, a consistent link between post-lunch naps and accelerated decline in decision-making, memory retention, and even emotional resilience. And when they dug deeper into autopsies and brain scans, what they found shook them. Plaques forming faster, vascular integrity weakening, not because of disease alone, but because of time being misused. And now here's the twist. It's not the nap itself that's dangerous, it's the signal it sends. If you sleep during the day, your body starts preparing for night, and the more often you do it, the more confused your internal systems become, especially the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's timekeeper, which stops producing clear hormonal instructions. So organs like the liver, heart, and brain begin operating out of sync, and for someone over 60 whose circadian rhythm is already weaker, this misalignment leads to chaos. Digestion worsens, glucose management fails, cholesterol rises, and sleep at night becomes shallow, broken, haunted with vivid dreams or paralyzing insomnia. And here lies the hidden curse. The more you nap in the day, the less you can rest at night, and the less you rest at night, the more tired you feel in the day, creating a loop, a trap, a slow descent that feels natural, even deserved, but is in truth avoidable, reversible, preventable. If only someone told you, if only you knew the signs, the growing craving for sugar after a nap, the slight dizziness when waking, the increased irritability, the frequent bathroom trips at night, the voice inside saying, "I'm just getting old," when in fact you're just out of rhythm, and this rhythm, friend, is sacred. It's your lifeline, your biological truth, and those who restore it, those who resist the temptation of day sleep and instead expose their skin to morning light, who walk after meals, who nap only for 10 minutes if needed, but never beyond. These are the ones who age slowly, who maintain their spark, whose minds remain clear, whose muscles stay responsive, and whose hearts beat not with exhaustion, but with purpose. And if you think this is exaggeration, consider this. Why do elders in blue zones, the longest living communities, avoid long naps and favor early bedtimes and sunrise walks? Why do their bodies obey them even into their 90s? because their cells are aligned with the sun, not fighting it, and if you're between 60 and 80, this is your crossroad. Either drift deeper into the comfort of afternoon sleep, unknowingly speeding up the wear on your brain, heart, and soul, or choose to reclaim your rhythm, even now, because it's not too late, because your body is waiting for clarity, for consistency, and most of all, for you to stop treating sleep as escape and start honoring it as sacred, timely medicine. Only then will the fog begin to lift. Only then will strength return to your step and memory to your mind and calm to your chest, and in that moment, you'll know. It was never just about sleep. It was about power, the quiet kind, the one that be. They say the most dangerous threats are the ones you can nap through, and that's exactly what happens as people age. Life gets quieter, slower, softer, and within that softness hides a trap that doesn't announce itself with pain or panic, but with comfort, with habits that feel earned, like a gentle midday nap under a fan, the hum of familiarity, a body heavy with the weight of years. But what if that comfort is the very thing causing the rapid unwinding of your life force? What if the day sleep you think is restoring you is actually rewriting your biology in the background, not with rest, but regression, and it begins inside the hypothalamus where your aging brain holds the last flicker of control over your body's master clock, but that flame is already dimmed by years of processed food, artificial lights, late dinners, and then you nap during daylight when your body is supposed to be alert and digesting, and suddenly your core temperature drops, your blood pressure dips, your hormones misfire, and the system meant to regulate vitality starts confusing dusk with dawn, triggering cascades of biological confusion, dozens of systems wondering, is it time to rest or repair, to digest or fast, to cleanse or rebuild? And no one answers. So they stall, and while this chaos brews inside, on the outside, it looks like normal aging, a bit more forgetfulness, a little weight gain, a mild tremor, but it's not. It's your inner clock malfunctioning, ticking out of rhythm, and soon enough, your muscles begin to shrink, not from disuse, but from mistiming. Your growth hormone doesn't spike at night as it should, your melatonin doesn't arrive at dusk, your insulin response blurs, and slowly, painfully, the line between day and night becomes a fog. And in this fog, even dreams become distorted. Your REM cycles shorten, your deep sleep phases break. You wake unrefreshed and nap again the next day, thinking it's the solution. But it's actually the fuel to a vicious loop. And what's worse is that this effect intensifies between the ages of 60 to 80 because this is when your circadian resilience weakens most, when your pineal gland produces less melatonin, when your sleep homeostasis becomes fragile, when the gap between rest and ruin shrinks, and all it takes is one habit, like regular afternoon sleep, to push your fragile systems off balance. And here's the chilling truth. In longitudinal studies on cognitive decline, those with irregular sleep-wake cycles showed 3 times higher chances of developing dementia within 5 years. Not because they were old, but because their systems had forgotten when to do what. And once the brain loses track of time, it forgets how to protect itself, how to cleanse itself, how to prioritize synaptic health. And yes, that one innocent nap can be the start of that unraveling. And if you think you're the exception, consider how even modern hospitals track elderly patients' delirium risk based on daytime drowsiness, how geriatric wards now treat irregular daytime napping as a symptom, not a cause, but those who see deeper know. It's both. A symptom of chronic disconnection from natural light and a cause of accelerated decline. And then there's your heart, your liver, your bones, all tuned to daily rhythm, all impacted by mistimed sleep. Because your liver, for example, is designed to detox at night. But if you nap long hours in the day and stay up late watching screens, it loses its cue, and detoxification becomes partial, inefficient, leading to inflammation buildup, which explains why chronic nappers often complain of joint stiffness, slow healing, and brain fog. It's not the years, it's the rhythm, and the most terrifying part? You may never know this is happening because it doesn't scream, it whispers, and unless someone tells you, you'll keep napping into dysfunction, into confusion, into decay, and you'll call it aging even though it's misalignment. And the clock you must fear is not on your wall, but within your chest, your gut, your brain. It's counting not your hours, but your patterns. And the more those patterns reflect nature, the more you thrive. The more they reflect convenience, like irregular naps, late meals, windowless rooms, the faster you fade. And there's one more twist. Your environment plays a role too, because most people after 60 are indoors most of the time, disconnected from sunlight, from birdsong, from natural morning cues, so the body doesn't know when day begins. And when you sleep in the day, it loses the last chance to recalibrate. And the more often you do it, the more you desensitize your internal light sensors, especially in your retina and skin. And once those sensors go dull, no amount of coffee or supplements can fix you, only light can. But if you nap during that light, you're rejecting your lifeline. And so, dear friend, this story is not to scare you, but to wake you. Not from sleep, but from the assumption that sleep is always good. Because timing is everything. And when you're over 60, EV. They say the body never lies, but what if your body is screaming while your habits keep silencing it? If you've ever woken up from a midday nap feeling more exhausted than before, more confused, or even emotionally heavy, it's not your imagination. It's your internal systems breaking their silence. And in this third part of the story, we dive deeper into the science and soul of why long daytime sleep after the age of 60 may not just be a harmless habit, but a slow trigger to irreversible decline, especially when it's done regularly and without discipline. Because the elderly body, already slowed down in recovery and repair, depends deeply on rhythm, on predictability, and when that rhythm is broken, especially during daylight, it begins to confuse signals, suppress hormones like cortisol and melatonin at the wrong times, and disturb glucose regulation, which leads to fatigue, joint inflammation, and even mood disorders. And studies have now shown that extended napping in older adults, especially more than 90 minutes, has been linked to faster cognitive decline, even triggering pre-dementia symptoms in some, because the daytime is meant for movement, light, nourishment, and connection, not for slipping into darkness that mimics night. And here's where it gets disturbing. When elders nap deeply during the day, especially after lunch, their parasympathetic nervous system remains activated for longer than normal, suppressing alertness hormones and reducing brain plasticity for up to 6 hours afterward. Meaning, if you sleep from 2 to 4 p.m., your brain may not fully wake up until 10 p.m. But by then, it's too late to engage, too early for sleep again, creating a cruel loop of restlessness and late-night alertness. And this is why so many elders who nap during the day also suffer from midnight overthinking, anxiety attacks, and even shortness of breath, not because they are mentally ill, but because their sleep cycle has become biologically disjointed, and in cultures like ours, especially in South Asia and the Middle East, where after-lunch rest is romanticized as kailula or siesta, people forget that the traditional nap was short, disciplined, and surrounded by physical labor, not the 2-hour TV doze or bed sync we now practice. And so this part of the story takes us to a woman named Hajara, a 67-year-old widow living in the outskirts of Lahore, who started taking long afternoon naps after her retirement. What began as 20 minutes turned to 2 hours, then 3. And soon she began forgetting things, like names of her grandchildren, or whether she'd already prayed or not. And one day she even left the stove on and almost caused a fire. Her doctor said it was early signs of memory degradation, and perhaps even pre-Alzheimer's. But deep inside, Hajara knew something else. It wasn't her age, it was her routine. And when she visited a sleep specialist in Islamabad, he told her something that would change her life forever. You are not old, you are misaligned. And that was the spark. She began to change her routine, cutting naps down to 20 minutes max, walking in the sunlight after lunch, using gentle breathing exercises instead of sleeping to escape boredom, and in just 30 days, she said her fog began to lift, her memory sharpened, and most importantly, she started feeling alive again. And her story is not rare, it's universal, because the body has a rhythm called the circadian clock. And when we respect that, healing starts to happen even after 70. And so, here's the deeper warning. Sleeping during the day can feel like rest, but for an aging body, it might be the equivalent of shutting down the engine during flight, because the body begins to rewire night and day, causing cortisol to rise at midnight, melatonin to release at noon. And these inversions confuse every other function, from digestion to emotion to immunity. And in many elderly patients, extended daytime sleep has even been linked to metabolic syndrome, increased visceral fat, and higher inflammation markers like CRP, which silently contribute to heart disease and diabetes. And the worst part? The longer this cycle continues, the harder it becomes to fix, because the brain becomes dependent on the wrong schedule. And it's not just about discipline, it becomes about rewiring your entire life around light, breath, movement, and mindful rest. And this is the phase in our story where we shift from fear to action, because the real villain isn't sleep. It's misplaced sleep, overused rest, and spiritual dullness disguised as comfort. And if you're reading this and feeling like it's too late, let me tell you, it's not. Because even at 75, the body responds to change like a student waiting to learn again. And if you reduce your naps, anchor your day in sunlight, breathe before meals, walk after dinner, and avoid sleeping out of boredom or emotional avoidance, you will feel it, not just in your joints or brain, but in your soul. And you'll know you're back on the path, because real. And now, as we reach the final chapter of this story, it's time to stop whispering around the truth and start living it out loud, because the reality is this: sleeping too much during the day after the age of 60 isn't just about being tired. It's about everything your body is trying to tell you but you've chosen not to hear. And what begins as small naps slowly morphs into a pattern of shutting off from life, from memory, from presence, from purpose. And this isn't an attack on rest. This is a call to reawaken your natural alignment before it's too late. Because every hour you nap past your biological need is an hour stolen from evening clarity, from deep sleep cycles at night, from hormonal stability, and most heartbreakingly, from the moments you could have spent truly feeling your life. And when you look at the elderly who thrive well into their 80s, you'll notice one thing in common. They sleep with purpose and wake with purpose. They rest when the sun tells them to, and they rise when their bodies whisper, not scream, for energy. And this wisdom is ancient, passed through spiritual traditions, through the sunnah of prophets, the habits of sages, the lives of warriors. And now, in this age of screens and constant sedation, we are losing that alignment. And it's costing us more than sleep. It's costing us time, identity, legacy, and clarity of thought. And if you're someone who's been napping for hours in the afternoon because of fatigue, pain, boredom, or depression, it's time to pause and ask the hardest question. Is this really rest, or is this escape? Because there's a kind of fatigue that comes not from doing too much, but from not doing enough of what matters. And that's the kind that eats away at your spirit silently. And yes, your body is aging. Yes, the joints hurt more. The energy is lower. But you are not here to coast through this season numb and sedated. You are here to evolve, to rise into the final phase of your life with honor and clarity. And here's the hope. You still can, because neuroplasticity doesn't die at 60. It just waits for you to engage it. And when you start reducing your naps, regulating your meal times, bathing in early morning sunlight, drinking water before caffeine, walking gently after food, reading instead of scrolling, sitting in silence instead of falling asleep, you begin to return to yourself. And the changes might be small at first. A clearer memory, deeper sleep at night, fewer headaches, sharper focus. But then it grows. Your laughter becomes easier, your mornings become lighter, your relationships deepen, and the anxiety that once sat in your chest like a stone begins to loosen its grip. Because the body doesn't just want to survive, it wants to flow, to breathe, to move. And if you align with the rhythms written into your DNA, you'll begin to feel like yourself again. And no, this is not about guilt or regret. If you've spent years sleeping long during the day, it's okay. But now that you know the truth, you hold the choice, the power, the responsibility to honor your body with the discipline it craves, because the most dangerous lie is, it's too late. And the most powerful truth is, today is still mine. So begin today, even with just one change. Wake 15 minutes earlier, skip the nap, drink warm water with lemon, stand barefoot on the earth, and say a prayer of presence. And your body will respond like it's been waiting, because it has. And in doing this, you not only preserve your physical health, but you also protect your mind, your memory, your independence. And you give your family, your community, the gift of your whole presence. And that is a legacy worth living for. Because this isn't just a story about sleep. It's a story about awakening. And if you've made it to this final part, then you're already waking up. Now go live like it.